Welcome back to Bowers Creations. And wow, what do I gotta say? That last video, y'all blew me away. We picked up 40 subscribers off that last video. I never expected that. I thank every one of you that subscribed. I hope I could meet your expectations and produce some decent content. And I don't know what to say. I sure appreciate it. This week I figured we'd take a tour of my little backyard garden. It's only a 14 by 36 garden area. We've been gardening back here for about 14 years. That short I mentioned just a while ago, I released it about 5 weeks ago and it got a ton of views and a ton of comments on it. So I figured some folks would like to see it up close. We'll jump on the selfie stick now and we'll take a look at it. And then for those who want to stick around afterwards, I actually have 14 years of photos of this garden dating way back to the very first shovelful. And I figured I could go through a slideshow and commentate, maybe give you some inspiration, or for you new gardeners, it's possible. Just to show you how possible it is. It takes time, but show you what could be done over a amount of 14 years. Alright, so on the left here we have a little 6x8 garden shed. Holds all of our stuff, perfect size. And then here we have what we call the lady of the garden. Found her in the alley. She about broke my back when I loaded her in the truck. Standing here next to the bird bath. Here on the gate I have a sign that says no dogs, but I've yet to have a dog that would read it and obey it. Then over here on the pergola, as we move along, we have thornless blackberries. We've been growing them for about 8 years now. They've been a fun joy every year. If you remember the 90s, you got to have your farmer butts. Up here on top of the pergola, I put in a piece of conduit so that my wife could hang baskets along the pergola. As we step in the garden, right here to the left of the gate, she has several varieties of mint planted. This is a small garden, so it's kind of hard to get these shots. Got this ugly thing here. Blackberries will ripen next week. It's usually when that happens. Back here we have a miniature rose, irises, several other things, I have no idea. In this first bed we have a couple zucchini plants that are just killing it this year. They need thin back. They're about 3.5 foot tall. On the lattice we have cucumber. And one giant ugly gourd, or ornamental pumpkin, whatever that is. We kind of let stuff grow. We let nature take its course. That gourd's clear over here along the fence in the sunflowers. There's also cucumbers climbing the sunflowers. They're starting to climb out of this jungle, so hopefully they do something for us this year. Big old moonflower. In our other bed we have some carrots and our tomatoes. They're all about 5 foot tall now. Once the heat resides come August, I'm expecting these to really just blow up. The other side of the tomato bed. Back here is kind of our little work area where we store extra stuff, pots and tools, and we also have our compost area back here. If I could get back here and survive. We do believe in soil building. We don't fertilize hardly at all. We just build our own soil, continue to build it. Alright, so I hope you like this little walk around of the garden. We'll jump straight to the slideshow now. They'll show the evolution of this garden and everything we've tried in the past, our regrets and mistakes, and I hope you enjoy. In the spring of 2012, I built this first raised bed out of cinder blocks. I had 12 yards of topsoil and manure brought in to fill this bed. I had moderate results, enough to make me want to completely reconfigure the garden in 2013. In 2013, I built these 2 cedar beds out of some leftover pickets from a fence job, and I took the cinder block bed and divided it into 3 smaller beds. I also built a fence to divide up my backyard and the garden space. Had a little compost area. This is also the first year I tried mulching my walkways to keep my walkways nice, weed-free. I used straw to do that. And here you can see I used just about anything I had. I actually hand-tied this trellis. In the spring of 2014, I rototilled the walkways and mulched them with straw again. I didn't know what kind of disaster I was headed for, but we'll talk about that later. I do live in the Texas Panhandle. It gets very hot here, so I found some pipe on Marketplace and built this frame to support a shade cloth, and that made a huge difference. It was a 30% shade cloth. And here you see the backyard really starting to take shape after about 3 years of work. In the spring of 2015, I found this shed for $250 on Marketplace. Tore down the fence and rebuilt it so I could get the shed in. Rototilled the walkways again. However, this time I added several inches of wood chips. Really started making the garden look nice and clean for the first time. It was having pretty good results, looking pretty nice from the get-go. And then the rain hit. We got tons of rain this year, flooded the garden multiple times, and this is the result of it. Completely overgrown, and here's all that straw. I buried all those seeds with the wood chips. It got watered in and turned my whole garden into a pasture of hay. We did, however, end up having a killer crop on tomatoes and even got a few watermelons out of the deal. And here's again a picture of the backyard in 2015. 2016 started out spectacular. I think I'd finally started getting the handle of a few things. My then girlfriend, now wife, started getting more involved. She started planting more flowers and more ornamental stuff out in the garden, really giving it a different vibe. And that's when I first got the inspiration for Bowers Creations. I built these 3 beds hoping they'd be great displays for my garden, but they got bought out from under me. I couldn't turn down the offer. So I built these 3 beds for my garden, and the same thing happened. Next thing you know, I had to build these for a custom order, and then I built this bed for a custom order. I'd built 10 of these cedar beds and didn't have one to show for myself, and that's when I decided I was going to build one so nice and so expensive no one wanted to buy it. And this one I called the Strawberry Patch. That also allowed me to tear out my 2 original cedar beds that had fallen apart and freed up some space for future growth. In the spring of 2017 is when I built our pergola, again from leftover material from a fence job. It's been a centerpiece in our garden for many years now. This is also when we planted our blackberry bush. We've enjoyed it every year since. We had some volunteer pumpkins that year, and 2017 was just a fun year. Everything done pretty good and just looked real nice that year. 2018 followed right in the tracks of 2017. Just another fun year out in the garden, out smelling the flowers, enjoying the sunshine, continuing watching it grow. And here's the backyard again in 2018. In 2019, inspiration struck again and it's time to do a little rearranging. I started building the concrete raised beds featured on the YouTube channel Man About Tools. I built several of these blocks and beds alongside my cedar beds to sell locally, and I got to add a few to the garden. This pretty much finished out the garden space. I was out of room, but sure made it a nice, enjoyable place to hang out. So by now you're probably thinking, Joshua, what did you do to your garden? It was so established. That is not the same garden you just took us on a tour of. In 2019, early 2020, I decided I wanted to reduce my hobbies and minimize my distractions. I sold off all my beds and block on Marketplace, and I let grass take back over the garden area. And then COVID hit. With all that going on, I was very concerned I'd made a big mistake. During the summer of 2021, everything was going to change again. The cycle was going to repeat itself. My fiance at the time moved in. Unfortunately, it's too late in the season to do anything out in the garden. During 2022, my workload kept me so busy, I only had time to work and sleep. My new wife had to take care of all the responsibilities around the house, and neither one of us had time to get out into the garden. In the spring of 2023, after my wife's relentless pursuit to have a garden again, I decided I better build her some beds. This time I built her some simple concrete beds. They matched the curb under the fence. This allowed me to push the beds all the way to the fence instead of wasting space on walkways. And this is what our garden looks like in just the second year after restoring our garden space. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. This garden is pretty sentimental to my wife and I, but this is just going to be another facet that we explore here at Bowers Creations, where we try to build, create, grow, or learn something every day. We'll catch you next week. I hope y'all have a wonderful weekend, and God bless.